DG.
DG.
Doctor.
Dr. Njugu.
New minute you.
Njugu.
You long net.
Yes.
Director ICT.
Madam Rada. Director of Economic Affairs, Economic Regulations.
Deputy DG. Solar Seaman.
So, that's the Deputy DG.
Petroleum.
Petroleum.
QA manager. Ismaila Jam.
QA Manager.
Electricity manager. Ipupu.
Manager. Acting Director of Consumer Affairs.
Jamila Tusedo.
Director Enforcement.
Emmanuel.
Are we set? Are we set? Why Sankano? Okay, well, let's start. Where's DPS? Let's start.
Good morning. Can we start with prayers in our own ways? Good morning once again. Thank you very much, the media houses, respective personnel from the media houses we have in today, to respond to our call today for yet another, press conference that is done bi-weekly. Today, in our midst, we have the Public Utility Regulation Authority, who would be here, who are here today with their respective directors to speak to the public about their ongoing programs, the achievement that they have achieved so far, and any other development in the pipeline. To have the opportunity to speak with the media. And if you have any questions, that will come later in the quick Q&A session. So before going further, let me ask the Honorable Minister of Information, Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, to do the introductory remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and good morning, members of the press. Good morning, the DG of Pura and his entire team. We appreciate you coming here today to face Gambians and answer pertinent questions. I know there are some issues around. Gambians are eager to hear from you, particularly members of the press, with regards to a recent press release that was going around. So I think they'll need clarification. But before I start, I'd like to first of all give an update since our last press conference from the Gambia government. The first update, the Gambia in solidarity with ICJ, which is the International Court of Justice, their opinion on Israel's occupation of Palestine territory. The Gambia welcomes the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, declaring Israel's occupation of the Palestinian territory illegal under international law. As the current chair of the OIC, His Excellency the President endorsed the Gambia's participation in the advisory opinion proceedings. This involved a written submission and an oral presentation by Gambian Justice Minister, Honorable Dauda Jallo, during the court's hearing earlier this year. The ICJ accepted the Gambia's arguments that Israel's occupation is illegal as it violates Palestine's right to self-determination, and it constitutes a regime of apartheid and breaches international law governing the use of force. The court also ruled that Israel's legislation and measures create and maintain a near complete separation of the West Bank and East Jerusalem between settler and Palestinian communities, violating Article 3 of the Convention on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, the CERD. The Republic of the Gambia welcomes this historic ruling and calls on Israel, all states, and the United Nations to abide by its findings and conclusions. The message ends. The next update: the Gambia government bans cross-border sale of subsidized fertilizer. The Gambia government has learned that its heavily subsidized fertilizer intended solely for Gambian farmers is being sold across the border. To address this, the government instructs all local government authorities, the Gambia Police Force, and sister security institutions and agencies to arrest and confiscate fertilizer en route to destinations beyond our borders. The public is urged to cooperate fully and report any fertilizer smuggling attempts nationwide. The next update: President Barrow signs executive order suspending non-statutory overseas travels. Now, let me remind the members of the press and the public that this is not a new order. This is a reminder that the order to ban non-statutory travels is still in place since last year, and this is just a reminder, so it's nothing new. In an effort to curb government expenditure, President Barrow, acting under Section 76, Subsection 1 of the 1997 Constitution, has signed an executive order immediately suspending all non-statutory overseas travels by the President, Vice President, Cabinet Ministers, senior government officials, civil servants, and employees across all government institutions and agencies. Exemptions to this order include travel to statutory meetings where the Gambia's participation is mandatory, and foreign trips fully funded by external sources, subject to prior approval by the President or for an authorized official. Delegates are required to submit back to office reports to the Cabinet upon their return. Once again, this is not a new ban, as an existing ban. It's just a reminder that it is still in force. The Ministry of Lands, Regional Government and Religious Affairs also issued a press release, a formal directive to all alkalolus and sefolu to immediately cease levying fees on land transactions. While traditionally it has been common to offer gifts to alkalolus and chiefs as a token of appreciation, charging fees for land transactions has no legal basis and therefore it is unlawful. The minister emphasizes that unauthorized charges for land transactions violate principles of fairness and transparency and will not be tolerated. The ministry remains committed to upholding the rule of law, ensuring equitable access to land resources, and promoting good governance and land administration. That was the last update. I'm pleased also to inform you that we have the Ministry of Justice here present today to also update Gambians. I wasn't sure whether they were coming or not because I didn't get the final word, but I just saw the Solicitor General and his team coming in about the state of the current constitution, the draft constitution, but also update Gambians about the strides made so far in implementing the TRRC recommendations. I think Gambians will be very eager to hear from the SC and his team, or from the Minister of Justice, about the state of the draft constitution, but also update Gambians about the implementation so far of the TRRC recommendations. Without much ado, I'd like to start with Pura I'll invite the DG of Pura. I'll give you 15 to 20 minutes to tell Gambians exactly what your institution, what the authority has been doing, but also any other information for the authority, and then we'll have Q&A, then we'll have the Ministry of Justice. Also present here today is Mr. Sankano. He's supposed to chair this event, but I think he came a bit late, so the DPS did that job for you, but you can take over from now. Now we have Pura coming in. You can come and say a few words, and then officially invite Pura, because that is the role of the chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister Dr. Ismail Assisi. Apologies, due to circumstances beyond control, I couldn't make it on time, but I've been in touch. I am Prince Boubacar Sankano, Deputy Government Spokesperson, deputizing the Gambia Government Spokesperson and Presidential Advisor, Mr. Ibrahim Ajit Sankare. I'd like to welcome the Director of Information Services, officials from Ministry of Justice, Pura, ladies and gentlemen, DPS. Thank you all for joining this press conference. And as the Honorable Minister said, as government, we are steadfast. And I also like to invite all of you to ask questions in local languages. We need our local languages. As Ralph Waldo Emerson said, language is a city to the building of which every human being builds a stone. So we need to build our nation through comprehension, through the language that our people understand. So feel free to ask questions in our native languages. Based on the information available here, I would like to invite the DG of Pura, Dr. Njoguba, to give us a statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Mr. Sankano, and DPS. Honorable Minister of Information, Dr. Ismail Assisi, the Deputy Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Information, Director of Information Services, the Solicitor General and Legal Secretary at the Ministry of Justice and team, the media fraternity, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all other protocols duly and respectfully observed. Good morning to you all. On behalf of the board, management, and staff of Pura, I would like to thank the Honorable Minister and his team for inviting us here today to shed light on some of our key activities as it relates to our functions. I would like to note that Pura, as an entity, has employed similar strategies in engaging with consumers, such as the Consumer Parliament. We know that this type of open engagement works, and therefore we wholeheartedly subscribe to this event as initiated by the Minister and his team. And we want to thank them for this wonderful initiative. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as a brief background, let me touch on the role of Pura for a simplified understanding for all present here today and those who are following this program through other mediums. The Public Utilities Regulatory Authority, also referred to as Pura, is a multi-sector regulatory body set up by an Act of Parliament in 2001 to regulate certain public utilities, such as telecommunications and broadcasting, that includes all mobile and land network operators, electricity, water and sewerage, downstream petroleum, which was onboarded to Pura by the Petroleum Act in 2016, including all petrol stations. The authority has 7 directorates namely the Directorate of Legal, Licensing and Enforcement, Directorate of Economic Regulation, the Directorate of Petroleum, Water and Electricity, the Directorate of Consumer Affairs, the Directorate of Admin and Finance, the Directorate of Human Resources Management, the Directorate of ICT, and the Directorate of Internal Audit. Pura is governed by a board of directors, which provides governance and operational oversight of Pura. As you can see, Pura's mandate is diverse and cuts across most of the key economic sectors in the Gambia. Pura's main source of income is regulatory fees charged to regulated utility providers. The amount collected from operators as regulatory fees is what forms the annual budget of the authority. The maximum amount that can be charged by the authority is set by law to a maximum of 1.5% of the operator's annual turnover. Since its inception, Pura has devoted a significant amount of time and resources to developing its capacity and ensuring that the fundamentals of an effective regulatory institution are in place. In this regard, we are conscious that regulation as a practice requires requires tact and patience and presents many challenges in the various sectors of electricity, water, telecommunications, and of late, the petroleum sector. In recent times, we have had to assert our mandate and make some tough but equitable decisions, not always acceptable by those we regulate, but necessary to ensure a level playing field, especially when our mandate is to balance the interests of the public, the utility provider, and the government. We at Pura recognize that to deal with the functions set out in the Pura Act, and given the dynamic nature of the development of regulated utilities, we must be seen to be ensuring that services are delivered based on fairness. We are also challenged to provide universal services throughout the country to ensure that utility services are accessible to all Gambians, irrespective of their geographical location. Against this background, we collaboratively work towards equity in development. Against this background, like I said, we collaboratively work towards equity in development. I would like to present some of our major achievements and challenges as follows. Achievements in the legal, licensing, enforcement. To ensure no one operates in this regulated sector without first obtaining a valid license, we have evaluated various applications for numerous categories of licenses and made notable achievements in terms of licensing compliance obligations. We have successfully issued various categories of licenses to 5 telecommunications operators in the country, 18 internet service providers, 39 commercial radio licenses, 9 community radio licenses, 6 television broadcasting content provider licenses, 93 petroleum products licenses, 5 electricity licenses, 1 sewerage license. We have also continued to undertake continuous monitoring exercises to ensure those licensed in the regulated sector provide services in accordance with the terms and conditions of their licenses and the governing regulatory framework. Additionally, we continue to monitor with a view to ensure that no one provides a regulated service without first obtaining a valid license, and that those found in violation are adequately dealt with in accordance with the law's provisions. In 2024 alone, we have undertaken 4 enforcement actions in the telecommunications sector, 1 in the water sector, 4 in petroleum, and most recently 33 in the broadcasting sector. These actions are all geared purely towards ensuring compliance with the regulatory regime. Then development of infrastructure sharing regulations is at an advanced stage, expected to support the optimal and sanitized utilization of infrastructure development in the communications sector. We are still on our achievements. We are also supporting the development of serious regulations and quality of service in electricity regulations to support the effective dispensation regulatory mandate in these areas. We are also on the verge of finalizing the first water and sewerage regulations, which is expected to set the minimum reporting requirements for the production, transportation, distribution, and sale of water in the Gambia, as well as the sewerage systems. This will go a long way to enable the authority to dispense its role in water and sewerage system regulations. Despite the notable gains made, there still remain some challenges. The current legislative structure poses certain legal risks in the proper implementation and dispensation of the authority's mandate. These are likely due to the absence of certain critical legislative instruments and inadequacies in certain provisions. In the petroleum, water, and electricity sectors, the authority has been implementing key programs to promote service quality, but also ensure safety, health, and environmental protection in service delivery. Pura has provided supportive regulation to many service providers and stakeholders to enable them to comply with the sector laws, mostly through capacity building. And to name a few, we recently trained 70 fuel tanker truck drivers on health and safety to improve their knowledge of preventing road accidents and injuries. In our efforts to promote standards in the electricity sector, we have trained up to 40 stakeholders, including representatives from area councils, on wiring standards developed through the Gambia Standards Bureau. These efforts are geared towards reducing electricity-related fire incidents in this country. The authority has also trained 40 stakeholders, including NAWEC staff, on water safety plans. Today, NAWEC has its first water safety plan for the Greater Banjul area, which is a major development as far as water supply operations are concerned. Ladies and gentlemen, Pura has also developed programs to ensure ongoing quality assurance, particularly in water, a sensitive commodity is continuously torn. The authority in 2009 established a water quality monitoring program in partnership with the Department of Water Resources to test all water supply by NAWEC across the country. Through this program, critical interventions were made to safeguard the public from the risk of drinking water that does not meet the WHO standards. Just to name a few, the nitrate issue in Greater Banjul area and the iron in Gunjur were detected and resolved through this program. We have also ensured quality and protect consumers through other valuable initiatives. In collaboration with the Weight and Measures Bureau, we are at an advanced stage in concluding an exercise where we verify the calibration of all fuel pumps across the country. We've also entered into a third-party agreement with PAYS, under which fuel tanker trucks are inspected and certified every 6 months as part of our licensing and standardization programs for a sustainable fuel transportation business. The authority is also significantly contributing to the creation of an enabling environment for investment and service delivery. With relevant stakeholders and support from the World Bank, we recently validated the Gambia Electricity Grid Code, the first of its kind, which lays down the rules and processes in the transformation of our power sector. Despite the water bill yet to be enacted, Pura has been working ahead to support standards development and other instruments required to govern the water sector. We initiated the development of the first drinking water quality and effluent discharge standards. And following a high-level inception workshop, there is a national committee working on a regulation for sewage transportation. To the Directorate of ICT, during the period being reported, one of our biggest projects for the year 2023-2024 is the national number migration from 7 to 9 digits. To enable efficient numbering plan and alignment with global best practices. This initiative, we believe, will bring on uniformity of numbers for all operators. This will be launched on or before 31st December 2024. The authority conducts annual countrywide monitoring exercise to assess telecoms coverage signals, as well as health and safety issues related to masts and towers. In addition, annual monitoring exercises are also carried out to ensure that all broadcasters, radio and television, are technically compliant. Capacity building workshops on technical and legal issues are periodically organized to refresh and arm the broadcasting staff on their roles and obligations as part of our supportive regulation. Based on consumer expectations of safety, the authority has procured electromagnetic field EMF monitoring equipment to monitor radiation transmitted by telecoms antennas due to concerns raised by the public on installed antennas in their vicinity. In the same vein, to minimize frequency interference and optimize the usage of the scarce spectrum resource, a spectrum analyzer was procured a few years ago, and we expect to get a more advanced mobile spectrum monitoring van by end of this year to enhance our work in terms of spectrum monitoring. Pura staff are currently manning GM-CERT. GM-CERT looks out for cybersecurity threats threats into the country and advise the respective institutions according to the alerts we receive, remedial actions and recommendations that need to be noted for the recurrence of such attacks. The authority, as expected, monitors all international incoming and outgoing traffic and generates monthly invoices for the operators for government to receive the right revenue in tax for that traffic. There is a quality of service QoS monitoring equipment in-house that constantly monitor the GSM operators' networks using identified key performance indicators, KPIs. We have also procured broadcasting monitoring equipment to record 24/7 all transmissions of both radio and television content, which can be used as evidence in case of disputes tomorrow. Consumer web portal to empower the consumer to view network coverage signals by operator and technology 24/7 countrywide is in-house also. When we come to Department of Consumer Affairs, the authority, in ensuring that consumer welfare is protected at all times, has a dedicated toll-free number, 148, which consumers can call from any network without paying a butut and lodge a complaint against any service provider within the regulatory space and then get redress. Currently, there are two major flagships programs which the authority conducts to inform, educate, and communicate with consumers. This includes the Consumer Parliament and Bantaba outreach to the rural communities. In conducting the Bantaba outreach program from 2010 to date, we have so far covered 99 villages, out of which 43 villages have benefited from installations of new BTs, rural electrification, and improvement on network access, just to name a few. The Consumer Parliament, which is usually conducted in the GBA, will celebrate its 16th year anniversary this year, and is aimed at giving voice to consumers across the entire spectrum to come face to face with the echelons of the regulated utilities and get redress. The proceedings are live streamed to ensure that consumers in the diaspora are not left behind. They can also follow. Telecommunications network scams continue to be a challenge. From 2022 to date, the authority has recorded a total amount of $499,608 in scams from consumers, of which $224,929 has been recovered by Pura through the operators. Currently, major sensitization strategies are being deployed using social media platforms and influencers to educate the masses in combating this menace. Furthermore, the authority, in its quest to ensure inclusivity, has recently engaged with 3 conventional schools, namely the Gambia Senior Secondary School, Nusrat Senior Secondary School, and the Methodist Academy, as a pilot to engage students and the youth population in our activities making them Pura students ambassadors in disseminating information in their schools and communities about the mandate and role of Pura. A similar pilot will be conducted to target the schools in the rural area early next year. The authority has, over the years, conducted a pilot exercise in communities facing challenges with electricity, low voltage, and facing challenge with low voltage, and has brought over 1,000 pieces of CLF bulbs to improve their consumption in electricity usage. This has yielded dividends for consumers and has provided cost savings in communities like Tobacco Road and Caniving South. The authority continues to provide avenues for complaint handling through a walk-in service from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I am being reminded of time, but I want to crave the indulgence of the Honorable Minister and the Chairman that Pura is huge. Pura's role is huge. And you just cannot, we want to inform the public, we want to tell them what we do and what we engage and our challenges. And I believe that we will endeavor to meet the time that has been given to us, but bear with us. Finance and administration. Apart from our expected day-to-day financial prudence, we continue to experience the following challenges. There are difficulties with some GSM operators for the payment of regulatory fees, especially Gamtel and Gamcel and others. And also some private TV stations and radio stations do not regularly pay their regulatory fees on time, despite the reduced and revised amount requested. There's timely submission of their audited financial statements for regulatory functions. We also have difficulties in payments of their gateway invoices, again, especially by Gamtel and Gamcel and few others. Continuous professional development that is due to lack of funding. On the Department of Economic Regulations, on the electricity subsector, Honorable Minister, the authority since 2009 has constantly reviewed and set the tariff for NAWEC to ensure that consumers are not overcharged. As NAWEC extends its coverage, it becomes imperative that more consumers are subscribed to its services, and the authority ensures that third-party service providers are licensed to vend electricity tokens on behalf of the company. This initiative was approved in a bid to reduce the burden on consumers in getting tokens at odd times and during weekends when NAWEC customer care centers are closed. The authority in the telecom sector, where the sector is deemed competitive, the authority adopts a non-interference policy in the determination of end-user tariffs. However, when competition fails to address the concerns of the consumers, the law allows the regulator to conduct a market assessment study, and where there is an existence of dominance, certain remedies can be proposed to address the market's failure issues. Mr. Chair, such assessment was done and the result is being studied. The authority is also embarking upon a cost of service study, which will scientifically determine if the services being offered by the telecoms operators are excessive and proper recommendations. The challenges: getting accurate data and on time from the utilities we regulate is one of the challenges we grapple with. Without these data, it is difficult to properly regulate the sectors we regulate. Another big challenge is minimizing the frequent fiber optic cuts on the sole fiber backbone network managed by Gamtel. These unfortunate fiber cuts result in serious internet outages in some instances. Challenges also in the legal licensing and enforcement. To ensure no one operates in the regulated sector without first obtaining a valid license, we have evaluated various applications for numerous categories of licenses and made notable achievements in terms of licensing compliance applications. we have successfully issued various categories relation to these, the following, as we have indicated: internet service providers, commercial radios, community radios, and electricity licensing and the civil. For the Directorate of Human Resources, Pura, as a multi-sector regulatory authority, is manned by professionals who are meant to be experts in their various fields. Although there is need for more professionals to fill the growing and expanding sectors we regulate, the current staff number, which is around 82 active staff, are well trained in their areas of specialization. As a regulator, training is key in our activities so as to keep us at par with the industry. As a result, the authority offers capacity building programs within and outside the country in the form of fully funded master's programs, study tours, short-term professional training, etc. to our staff members. All these training opportunities has to an extent help in providing the authority with the needed manpower to effectively regulate the diverse utility sectors of the country. Notwithstanding, Honorable Minister, inadequate training budget due to our limited source of revenue has also hindered the authority's ability to provide adequate specialized trainings to all the staff who needs them. Finally, before my management team and I answer your questions, I sincerely hope that through this Mansakunda Forum, and indeed through our other information giving sessions and public discourse awareness about the work and functions of Pura, we hope it will increase, and the value and benefit of our regulator will be much more appreciated and understood. On this note, I thank you all for your kind attention and welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, DJ, for that beautiful rendition, a testament of government's commitment to build strong institutions that deliver for the benefit of the Gambian people. We'll need copies of your speech, both hard and soft copy, to distribute across the media. We'll get soft copies. Thank you very much. I would like to acknowledge members of your formidable team, the DG Solosima, Petroleum Q&A Manager Ismail Aswama, Electricity Manager, apologies in case I get your name wrong, Electricity Manager Ibu Boy, Acting Director of Consumer Affairs, Salima Tusaidi, Director of Legal Licensing and Enforcement, Imam Mendy, Director of Finance and Admin, Paul Mendy, Director of Economic Regulations, Burama Jamme, Director of ICT, Rodney Reyna. I also acknowledge the presence of Solicitor General, Legal Secretary Hussein Tomasi and his team from the Justice Ministry. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to open the floor for a few questions. Like I said, feel free to ask in our local languages for better understanding of the audience. As Pura's mandate is very broad-based, but there are people in the communities who will not know what they are doing. But answering questions, asking and answering questions in local languages can help. Name and media organization.
Nyari aja, nyari. Good morning. I am Pura Sonasi, including the Gambia. This is for the DG. Earlier this morning, Pura had issued a notice of intent to revoke some licenses for radio stations. Just wanted to follow up on how far informed with that. Have some of these radio stations regularized their status already? And or if you have revoked any as your caution.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nyasi. What I will do to provide justice to your question and also to give an enlightened information on the situation, I will call the director of legal and licensing to give us the proper update that you are looking for. Ms. Emma Mendy.
Good morning, everyone. We have issued a notice of intention to revoke the license 25th of June 2024. Yes, we have received a lot of applications within this time period and a lot of representation from the companies and persons that were served with these notices. So something is being done about it. We had a press conference about a week ago where we informed the general public that we have received the approval of the Honorable Minister of Information to revoke licenses that do not comply. So right now what we are doing, there is an interministerial and stakeholder committee that has been established. We are going through all the applications that have been received and the representation made, and hopefully by the end of this week a decision will be made on the licenses that will be revoked and you will be informed in due course. But something is being done about it. We received a lot of applications, over 33 applications. And we have the same people that are doing all that review and also entertain all the representation that is made. So hopefully by the end of this week, you will hear something from us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Director Mendy, for that explanation. Any additional question before we move to the next item on the agenda? You may come forward, for the sound feed. Come from the stage. Podium. Media organization.
Good morning. My name is Awumane. I work with GRPS. DJ, in your speech, you mentioned that you have a toll-free number where customers could call. So in a case that a customer called and gave a complaint, how do you follow the due process to make sure that the complaint that is being lodged to you is solved?
Thank you very much. I will ask our Director of Consumer Affairs, to answer that. We have been prepared for that, and I'm sure she would, enlighten you.
When a complainant calls the 148 call center, the first question we ask is, did you complain to the service provider that you are complaining against? If the answer is yes, then we take your details. Nonetheless, we'll take your details even if you haven't initially complained to the service provider. Whereby you have complained to them first, then we will make a follow-up. There are certain informations that we really rely on to process your complaint. That is the person that you spoke to when you called the service provider. Once we establish your complaint, then we make a follow-up. We have a CMS system where we log all complaints that we receive from a complainant. So when we receive these complaints, we do a 360-degree follow-up. At every stage of your complaint, when we talk to the service provider, we will inform you, call you back to let you know the progress that your complaint is taking until you satisfy at the end that yes, the complaint that I've lodged with the service provider has been resolved, then we close your case. So it's a complete entire process which follows a certain trend that it's been lodged in the CMS system, that we keep track of every activity And any information we receive regards to your update, we will update the complainant. So this is how complaints are dealt with at the calling the 148 call center.
Any additional question? For copies of the DG speech, you may liaise with our information officer, Ms. Zainab Jobate. She will collect the soft copies and then you can subsequently obtain yours from her. If there are no additional questions, then if there are no additional questions, we move on to the Minister of Justice, Director, Solicitor General and Legal Secretary, Counsel Tomasi. You're welcome.
Thank you, Deputy Spokesperson, Honorable Minister, Dr. Sise, the Director General of Pura, Dr. Joguba, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be here this morning on behalf of the Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice, the Honorable Dauda Jallow, to briefly provide one or two updates on the transitional justice process. The Honorable Minister has made reference to the draft constitution. It's my pleasure to inform the honorable members of the press that Cabinet has recently concluded its deliberation on the draft constitution. The report is now to be compiled by the Ministry of Justice with a view to gazetting the draft constitution. As you would know, we would require a period of about 3 months and subsequently another 10 days to complete the gazetting cycle for the draft constitution. So hopefully all indications are that we could have the draft constitution before the National Assembly in the last quarter of this year. So probably by December, we will have the National Assembly deliberating on the draft constitution. You will all recall that this is a promise that the government has made, that it would bring back the constitution. And it has accordingly done so, and the process is now on. So we will have the draft constitution before the National Assembly. Having said that, I know one matter that is of concern. Madam Yang, you should be by my side here. One matter that has been of concern has been the special tribunal which the Gambia seeks to establish in collaboration with the Economic Community of West African States. You would all recall that the Gambia requested the cooperation of ECOWAS in the establishment of the special tribunal. Of course, the Commission responded positively to this request, and what we now have is that the decision, that's the statute establishing the tribunal, was tabled before the Mediation and Security Council of ECOWAS. The Mediation and Security Council is the body comprising honorable ministers and ambassadors and of ECOWAS. And when it was tabled on the 3rd of July, it was considered and deferred to the next ordinary session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government. So I know it's been stated in some quarters that the decision or the statute establishing the special tribunal was rejected by the ECOWAS. That is not the case. What happened was that the Mediation and Security Council of ECOWAS considered the statute but defer it to its next meeting in December and wanted the ambassadorial meeting to first consider the statute and endorse it and then transmit it to the Mediation and Security Council. So this is what happened. So the statute will now go to the ambassadorial meeting, and hopefully that meeting will be convened here against perhaps in the next month or so, way before the December meeting. And once it is considered by the ambassadorial meeting, it will now be transmitted to the Mediation and Security Council. That's the level of the ministers of Foreign Affairs and Defense. And of course, they will deliberate on it and then send it to the Authority of Heads of State and Government. So the process is still on. There was a procedural hitch which delayed the consideration by the Authority of Heads of State and Government. I know also for a fact that the statute was discussed at the level of the ECOWAS Parliament, and they rejected the statute. But I just need to state that in as much as it's desirable to have the Parliament endorse the statute, we believe that the Parliament was not adequately briefed on the statute. There was some lack of understanding with regards to its full content and scope. Nevertheless, we would be embarking on a campaign to discuss with the parliamentarians so that they could be adequately briefed on the statute. But let me also hasten to state that the decision by the ECOWAS Parliament is considered non-binding. It's purely advisory, and the final decision on the establishment rests solely with the Authority of Heads of State and Government. It is not a decision, it is not for the ECOWAS Parliament to take a decision. Their role is merely advisory. But of course, it is imperative that they are also carried along so that there could be a broader consensus on the establishment of the special tribunal. So that is where we are, and it has dawned on us that we just need to do more. The experts have done their work. The experts committee of the ECOWAS has already endorsed the statute. The statute has also been endorsed by the justice ministers of ECOWAS, and now it's for us to work on the political process to see how we can dialogue and carry out further consultations with member states and have the statute approved. But I mean, you would all recall what was done in the case of Hissène Habré, where the Senegalese government requested support from the African Union and got the African Union to help in the establishment of the extraordinary chambers, which finally tried Hissène Habré in Senegal, because you cannot carry out these trials using your local jurisdiction and your local courts. It is in that same spirit that we took the decision to work with ECOWAS. ECOWAS being closer home and giving its relationship in terms of our transitional justice process, and the fact that so many citizens of ECOWAS have also perished and were victims during the 22 years regime. We have had the massacres that took place here, and some of the citizens of ECOWAS suffered that tragedy. And we felt we could work with ECOWAS, and ECOWAS has agreed to work with us so that we could establish this special tribunal, internationalize it, and endow it with jurisdiction to try the crimes that took place here. Having said that, I think another aspect of the transitional justice process that I want to bring to your attention relates to the Victims Reparations Act that was passed by the National Assembly in November 2023. We are working on the actualization of the act. As you all know, the purpose of the act is to ensure that victims are adequately compensated, notwithstanding that the TRRC had some compensation mechanism and actually did administer some reparations for victims, government has thought it fit to pass this act and ensure that all victims are actually considered and given adequate reparations. So that process is on, and the selection of the commissioners is almost completed. So very soon we would have a functioning commission administering reparations for victims. I think I would at this stage let my colleague, Madame Safinyan, perhaps talk about the medical board, the peace and reconciliation aspect, and maybe enforced disappearance. With your kind permission, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, SG, for giving me the opportunity to provide the rest of the updates. So you would recall that during the TRRC, there was a medical board that was put in place to cater to the needs of victims that needed urgent medical attention. But after the TRRC concluded its sittings, that board was dissolved. And whilst we were putting in place the Reparations Act, we realized that there was a need for the medical support to continue. So the Ministry of Justice reached out to the Ministry of Health, and the medical board was reconstituted. And last month, the Ministry of Finance contributed $8 million towards the work of that board. The primary reason for setting it up is to assist victims that need urgent medical attention that cannot maybe necessarily wait for the final reparations to be administered. Because as you may know, there are different forms of reparations. Reparations is not just necessarily financial compensation, but it could be in the form of medical support and other forms of support. So that is what the government is trying to achieve with the establishment of the medical board. And it's also important to highlight the fact that since January 2024, the Ministry of Justice has established a dedicated unit that is working entirely on focusing solely on transitional justice. And we call it the post-TRRC unit. So that is the unit that is responsible for coordinating the recommendations of the TRRC, which were approximately about 263 recommendations that are cross-cutting on different aspects, from justice and accountability, which the SG spoke about earlier. We have matters relating to reparations, matters relating to peace and reconciliation, and other aspects of transitional justice. So the post-TRRC has mechanisms that it has in place to coordinate the reparations, the implementation of the recommendations. Because if you have 263 recommendations across approximately about 61 different agencies that have roles to play, if you've had the chance to read the implementation plan, which was launched by the President in this very building in May 2023, you'd realize that we have different institutions, not just necessarily the Ministry of Justice. Generally, when we talk about transitional justice, the tendency is to think that it's the Ministry of Justice that has the sole responsibility, but there are so many factors, so many issues at play. So basically all the ministries have a role to play. So that is why we have a National Steering Committee, which had its inaugural meeting in June. So that comprises different permanent sectors, because they all have specific recommendations that targets their institutions. So that is one of the coordinating mechanisms that we have. And we also have another coordinating mechanism, which is the victim town hall, because we believe that there should be that opportunity for the victims to have a direct interface with the Ministry of Justice and with the government officials as well. So far, we have carried out 2 victim town halls. The first one we had was, we had it within the GBA. It was held at the Memory House, and the purpose of that town hall was to inform victims about the services that the medical board provides. So we had the doctors that are sitting on the board. They met with the victims, and the setup of the victim town hall is quite unique, because we don't have cameras or the press, or it's just basically victims being very honest to government, and government in turn being very honest to the victims, because the idea is to ensure that there's transparency in the entire process. So we've had 2 of such meetings. The first one was in the GBA, and the second meeting was held in Janjambure, and this was recently held in the end of June, towards the last week in June. We also have the partnership platform, which we've had 2 meetings so far. The partnership platform is basically between government and partners that are working in the development space in the Gambia. So we know that some of the recommendations, generally TJ programs are quite expensive to run, so you need to have as much support as you can. So we've been working closely with the partners. And the 4th coordinating mechanism is the one where we would be talking with the CSOs and the media to be giving them updates, because if we do not give the media regular updates, there's a likelihood that there would be misinformation, or some misconceptions may be spread. So we're trying as much as possible to ensure that we have frequent updates with the media. And we also have some task force that we've put in place. Like SG mentioned, the massacre that happened here, we had about almost 50-something West African nationals that were enforcedly disappeared. And we also had other Gambians, several people that were missing and their whereabouts are not known. So as part of the TRRC recommendations, there was a recommendation for a task force to be put in place that will look into the whereabouts of some of the victims of enforced disappearance, who, for example, their graves are not known, or who their burial sites, or who their whereabouts are still uncertain. So that task force is in place, and they've met twice, and it's chaired by the Ministry of Justice, and we have other institutions like the police, the army, the SIS, all key stakeholders, including victim organizations, as a part of that task force. And the major role of the task force is to chart a way forward in terms of what can be done to ensure that burial sites are identified. And once you identify the burial sites, what happens next? Because these are very critical issues where people need to know the whereabouts of their loved ones. But it's also very, it's very technical, but you require a lot of funding, because to exhume graveyards, it requires a lot. So they've been trying, they already have their terms of reference, and now they're trying as much as possible to forge partnerships with maybe relevant institutions outside of the Gambia that may have the capacity to assist. And another update I would give is just on archiving, which is basically another task force that we have established to look into what will be done with the materials that emanated from the TRRC. So we had documents, we had other equipments, and these are generally, as a TJ process, when you're wrapping up your process, you need to archive it for generations yet unborn, so that anybody that is doing some research, or generally people may want to know in the next 10, 40, 50 years what transpired or what happened, they would have the access. So how do you preserve the material? So that is why we have an archiving task force, which was actually also a recommendation from the TRRC to put in place a mechanism to archive the materials that emanated from the TRRC. So
that's fine. We can stop here.
Okay, just
we can take questions.
Yeah, thank you. We'll leave it at that and take questions.
Thank you very much.
Doctor, thank you so much. I think at this stage we could be open to questions or any comments on the updates we have provided.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can sit here. Whenever there's a question, you can just go to the board. Yeah.
Okay.
Questions?
Thank you.
Yes? Well, come here, they need the sound feed. Name and media organization.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Moro Ture. I work for Block TV. My question is with regards to the draft constitution. Because I want to know which constitution are you bringing? Because there was a prior consultation where there were arguments that if the constitution is tampered, it might still be thrown out of the parliament. So my question is whether there are adjustments to the draft constitution that you intend to bring before the National Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, you will recall there is only one draft constitution, and this is the one that was the subject matter of an act of parliament, the one that established the act of parliament established the Constitution Review Commission, which did its work for a 3-year period, carried out extensive deliberations, and came out with a draft. It is the same draft that Cabinet considered, and it is the draft that will be taken to the National Assembly for consideration. Whether there are adjustments to it, I believe that's the prerogative of Cabinet. That's for Cabinet to decide. But it's the same draft that has been considered, the draft that was submitted by the Constitution Review Commission. Thank you.
Mine is flexing.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, SG. Any additional question? In local
I
language?
have a question. Do I come there?
Yeah, come. So they'll need the sound feed.
Thank you, SC. I have a question from a member of the public. The radio program last week, and someone called in to ask a question concerning the TRRC recommendations. And the question is, the TRRC white paper identified and recommended people who are adversely mentioned they were mentioned for violating or for committing gross violations of human rights under the leadership of Yahya Jammeh, and that they must be prosecuted. What concrete steps have been taken by the government so far to prosecute these individuals, and when do we see prosecution to take place?
Thank you, Doctor. You will recall recently the National Assembly passed 2 important legislations. One, that was the Special Accountability Mechanism Act and the Special Prosecutor's Office Act. And I have talked about the Special Tribunal, which we are trying to establish, which we are in the process of establishing with the Economic Community of West African States. Now, these are the mechanisms that we have rolled out for purposes of justice and accountability. These are the institutions, these are the tools that will be used to conduct the trial. So the process is on, and we are actually, at this moment, constituting the office of the Special Prosecutor. The Special Prosecutor would carry out the investigations again, and also have been put in place for the Special Accountability Mechanism, as well as the Special Prosecutor's Office. Now, the Special Tribunal, you recall that some of the crimes that took place here, such as identified by the TRRC, such as torture, enforced disappearance, and widespread sexual and gender-based violence. These are crimes against humanity. These are not crimes that we can ordinarily try under our courts. That's why we are resorting to the establishment of a special tribunal that would have the mandate, authority, and jurisdiction to try this crime. So the process is on, and government is fully committed towards this process, and that is why we went before the ECOWAS institutions to establish this special tribunal. So we would very soon see these institutions put in place. It's important that we recognize that it takes time and we need resources to establish these institutions. I think what is important is the commitment by the government to have these mechanisms in place, and that process is on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, SK, for that explanation that we are going to have a multidimensional approach to the justice delivery mechanism, domestic and special prosecution unit, and also a hybrid system supported by our partners. It shows the trajectories in the modern international justice system. Any additional question before we move to countdown? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Question and answer session is over. Honorable Minister, thank you so much. This is another example of government's commitment to always approach and deliver. As a government, we are very steadfast in our testimony. As you know, human beings are fastidious, but at the end of the day, we have been told in the Holy Quran, وَالَّذِينَ أُولِي شَهَادَةٍ قَائِمُونَ. Those who are steadfast in their testimonies are always exempted. So as a government, we are always ready. I mean, all that is being said here, there is political will to deliver justice. There is political will to strengthen our public institutions, as seen an example of Pura. There's political will to engage the citizens in direct dialogue through this regular interface. I would like to invite the Honorable Minister to wrap up today's session. Thank you all for coming. Keep the conversation going.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you. And I'll come to the media very soon. I'll first have to thank the Solicitor General, the Minister of Justice, and his team, this brilliant young lady. We're really proud of you. Keep it up. DG, Pura, and your entire team, thank you very much for coming. Your presentations both were very comprehensive, very enlightening, and I think now our mandate as a ministry is what we call proactive disclosure of information. We are not waiting for people to ask for information now. We want to ensure now we have what we call information overflow. And I'm seeing that now, because there was a period when the media was complaining, oh, government doesn't come out to talk to people. We call them, where are they now? It's unfortunate that only 2 journalists out of the entire country is here to ask questions from important institutions like Pura, with all they are doing, from an important ministry like the Minister of Justice, in this very important period in our democratic transition. The entire country, only 2 journalists ask questions. And the complaint was, government doesn't talk to people. We ask questions, they don't answer. We say, now come, we have information for you, and they run away. It means there's an overflow of information now. And we won't stop. Even if no journalist comes, we will come and talk to the Gambian people. We're not talking to journalists, we're talking to the Gambian people. Because the journalists are the link between us, the government, and the people. Journalists take information from us and give it to the people. That is why they are critical partners. So we urge all journalists, all media houses, that when we call for a press conference, please come and ask questions. Because they're offering public service to the people. The questions are not for you, the information is not for you, it's for the people. That is the role we are playing as a media house, and that is how we engage you as a Minister of Justice. So thank you very much. I think this was a very good session. I thank the media houses who came, our media contract partners, Paradise TV, they were covering live. And the beauty of this press conference is that it was shown live across multiple channels. You tune on GRPS today, it's a press conference everyone was watching. You tune on QTV, it is a press conference. Paradise, the press conference. iAfrica, the press conference. Star TV, the press conference. Party Network, the press conference. So 6 to 7 channels are showing this press conference live. So wherever you tune to today, it is either the press conference or you put your TV off. You don't have no other choice. I thank the media contractors, the journalists who are here today, and the staff of the Ministry of Information. Next press conference will be in 3 to 4 weeks. We'll inform you on time which institutions are coming. The next event for the Ministry of Justice is the next month Sakunda, which is this Friday at 8 p.m. at the conference center here, and the Ministry of Higher Education, Science, Research and Technology, Professor Per Gomez and his entire satellite institution will be there. The difference between the press conference and the Mansakunda, the press conference is for the media, journalists to ask questions. The Mansakunda is for the public interface. We ask and appeal to the public to come on Friday at 8 p.m. here to interface with the Minister of Higher Education and his team to ask relevant questions regarding higher education, tertiary education, vocational training, and youth employment, because they are kind of linked. So I thank you for this session, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much, and I thank once again DG of Pura and his team. SC, we thank you. We thank the minister. Please convey our appreciation for sending his team despite was so such notice. And thank you everyone until next press conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much. No, I can send an email of somebody to. Who will get an email of somebody? No, I mean. Thank you. Oh, sorry, email address.